Let's resume. Mr. Lam Sanker. Thank you, Chair. Just a gentle reminder for the administration. Now, we will talking about a complex, a building in a complex. Now, if national security is at risk, then in a complex, if there is only a building with a national security use, then the rest of the group of buildings will still have to conduct energy audits. I'm just concerned that in the process, details of the national security use may be exposed. Thank you, Mr. Lam, for your comments. In our communication with government departments and also how the guidelines should be issued, we will discuss internally so that heads of departments understand how this bill is going to operate. Thank you. If there are no further issues, please go on. Page 6. Now, this is about the data disclosure form, subsection 6. The Director of Audit may publish the technical information contained in the data disclosure form for inspection of the public free of charge. And subsection 7 is when a new form is issued, then it will supersede the last one. All right, yes, page 7. This is clause 8 of the bill. This amends the composition of the appeal board panel in the ordinance. 2 more sectors will be included. They will be corporate members of the Hong Kong Institute of Engineers and also professional members of the Hong Kong Institute of Qualified Environmental Professionals. Page 9. That is the number of members in the panel. It will be changed from 5 to 7 because 2 more members have been added. All right, page 10. First section. The Director of EE may amend Schedule 5 by negative vetting. So by positive vetting. Subsection 2 is about Schedule 6. Now this is about a first audit. The relevant legislation will be made by negative vetting. This is consistent with the current practice in the ordinance. Page 11. This amends Section 48 of the ordinance. Any person is forbidden to forge any documents, including a data disclosure form. And then Section 49, that is to prohibit the issuance of misleading or false document. Please refer to page 13 of the English text. This is just a grammatical amendment from the singular is now amended to plural, more provisions instead of provision. Clause 14 is just a technical amendment. That is, in the commencement section, the date is specified to be the 21st of September 2012, so as not to confuse with the bill. Section 11, a transitional ordinance, a transitional provision, and that is now from the 21st of September 2012 to probably June 2026. Now, if any energy audit is complied in the interim, that it will be regarded as having complied with the ordinance. So by this we mean that the audit was carried out according to the code of practice in force and second by a registered energy assessor. We go to clause 14. This is to amend Schedule 4. The title is changed, and we've also added the relevant reference sections, and also there is also the list of buildings added. For Schedule 1, I understand why we have the relevant amendments. They are in line with our previous discussions. Now, when Schedules 1 and 4 were first enacted in the past, there were similar buildings but described in a different way. Now you are using the previous wordings. You've just added new buildings to the list. In the second item of Schedule 2, a portion of Schedule 1, a portion of a composite building that is not for residential or residential use. In Schedule 4, Item 2, that is on page 16. Building, a portion of an industrial building that is mainly a portion of a composite building that is for commercial use. In Schedule 1, the wording is a portion of a composite building that is not for residential or industrial use, that is mainly for commercial use. In Schedule 4, the wording is a portion of a composite building that is for commercial use. I guess the meaning is very much the same. It's just that the descriptions are different. Is there any rationale behind that?
Mr. Leung, thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question. Schedule 1 is for buildings that require certificate of for the prescribed buildings. If there are MTR stations or for buildings with educational uses, we don't want to rule out these buildings. That's why in Schedule 1, you can see a portion of a commercial building that is not for residential or industrial use, whereas in Schedule 4, you can see a portion of a commercial building that is for commercial use. Well, Mr. Chan, from the perspective of consistency, you should keep them consistent. Design, construction, major renovation works. After buildings provide proof, 5 years later, they will be subject to energy audits. If the words used are the same, that is more ideal. It's actually more confusing if you put it this way. That is, a portion of a composite building that is not for residential or industrial use. You should move with the times and use easier to understand drafting. Well, these two are actually a little bit different. As I said, Schedule 4, a portion of a commercial building that is for commercial use. If a commercial building is not for commercial use, then it doesn't fall into the second type of buildings. As we have added 9 more types of buildings, we believe the coverage is more comprehensive and can cover even more building types. Will there be a major impact if the drafting is a little bit different? Well, at present, we think that when we keep these drafting, it is more appropriate. And in the future, when we need to add even more building types, we may consider aligning the drafting of the type of buildings in these two schedules. It may be difficult for one to tell whether a portion is for residential or industrial use. That is because we are driving forward new industrialization. Is it suitable to cover this nowadays? I thank Mr. Chen for your view. In the future, we will consider your view. We'll consider taking on board your view. Thank you. Dr. Ben Chen. When there are renovation works, the building will have to meet the energy saving requirements. Sometimes there are renovation works, say laying the tiles on the floor. For air conditioners, there may be renovation works in this regard. What about renovation works not about anything electrical or mechanical? What about just laying floor tiles? From 8 to 11, they are government buildings, but then the EMSD is just helping these buildings with repair and maintenance. Could you amend the definition so that the scope will not be too limited? Major renovation works, they are covered in Schedule 3 of the ordinance. So the coverage is actually very clear. So laying floor tiles won't be major renovation works. Members can rest assured. Schedule 4 from 4 to 8, most of these are government buildings. Some are government buildings, however, hospitals. There are actually private hospitals in Hong Kong. There are more and more private hospitals. There are also NGOs in Hong Kong. So not all of these buildings are government buildings. Thank you, Mr. Tony TSE. I'd like to ask about schedules. Number 8 and number 9. Well, put it this way, community building. I'd like to know why you intend to amend the wording in this regard. My question is about the Chinese text. There is an amendment in the Chinese text. Well, I'll give the floor to the DOJ. DOJ? Yes, we do want to achieve clarity, and it's about the bilingual. It's about Chinese and English drafting. we add the words "ginchokmat" in the Chinese text with reference to the English version because of the word building after the word community. That's why we propose to add "ginchokmat" in the Chinese text to refer to building in the English version. We provide examples, say community hall, social services center, and so on. For municipal services building, examples include a market, a cooked food center, library, and so on. We didn't change the contents. So for number 10, is it also about the differences between the Chinese and the English texts? The drafting is a little bit different. And we want to make it clearer for the public to read the laws. Well, put it this way, the English text doesn't quite align with the Chinese text. That's exactly why we are proposing to make amendments to the Chinese text in order to bring them in line. In the English version, there is no contradiction. That's why we're only proposing amendments to the Chinese version. It's quite weird when you read 8, 9, and 10 together. But if you are just making linguistic amendments, then I don't have much to say. One more member, Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Yes, I understand. I understand the concern of the administration. They want to make the Chinese and the English texts consistent. There are actually two ways to do so. One, you amend the Chinese text, but this will make it weird. As Chairman said, probably you may consider amending the English text.
As a community building, 你索性嘅寫法就 building。
You should change it to building used for community services. That will make it clearer.
For medical and healthcare services, including 乜乜乜乜咁。其實即係
You may consider amending the English text instead. Yes, probably you may consider amending the English texts of number 8 and number 9. So in the Chinese version, it won't be too difficult to understand. Ms. Andrew Lam, no, it's not about this question. No problem, just ask away. BSIs, we already covered that. There are a total of 4 types. In relation to central air conditioning systems, they may be in private buildings, not necessarily in government buildings, but they aren't listed in the schedule. So I'd like to know whether private buildings will be included in relation to cavern structures. Plans may not have to be submitted. If data centers are going to be built in caverns, Do you require audits because there is a data center in the caverns, despite the fact that caverns themselves don't require any energy audits?
Yes. Thank you for your comments. We will reconsider the drafting and decide whether is the English or Chinese text that should be amended. We'll provide a written reply later. With regard to infrastructure, we have no intention to cover them this time, but we will see whether there is any need to cover infrastructure works next time. What about, sorry, I still have to respond to the point about cave-ins. Well, the installation of building surfaces in cave-ins without any structure, we have no intention to cover them because they are mainly infrastructure works and we don't intend to cover them in this amendment. I think you should think twice. What about the use or the setting up of data centers in cave-ins? Now, if there are no structures involved, you will not regulate such data centers. I think you should think twice about this policy decision. Yes, that is a good suggestion. Ms. Judy Chen. I don't think there is any amendment to items 8 or 9 because you're only talking about building with 1 or 2 more such places. Now, if we are talking about a big performing venue, I'd like to know whether it will be covered. Thank you. No, that is not the case. We are talking about a composite building only. If it is a composite building, then it has to be occupied as 2 or more such places. So we have an all-inclusive approach. So if either 1 or 2 such users will be covered, why do you have 2 separate buildings? Now we have composite buildings such as those having a market on the ground floor and residential blocks above. So they will be caught anyway, even if you don't have the phrase being occupied as 2 or more such places. I believe when the ordinance was first drafted, we would want to catch composite building with more than 2 such users. I think it's quite clear. When we talk about 1 or many surfaces, this is very clear. They have to be caught by this ordinance anyway. So why do you have to separate the 2? Because if you have this extra clause, then there may be ambiguity. People may think that if there is only 1 single use, they will not be covered. Now, so long as the building is for community or municipal services purpose, then they will be caught. I share the concern of Ms. Judy Chen. Perhaps I should make it clearer. Item 8. There are 2 parts to buildings on item 8. First, if it is a building that is for a community purpose, and after the comma, we are talking about composite building occupied as 2 or more such places. There are so many different kinds of buildings in Hong Kong. There are composite buildings occupied as 2 or more such places, and therefore in 2010 or 2012 they were included, and this has been in operation for 12 years already. I believe there won't be any misunderstanding in terms of operation. The second part may be superfluous, but I have no objection to your rectifying this, Ms. Judy Chen. Yes, for items 8 or 9 and 9, they are just improving the text. While you don't have to respond now, you may want to go back and think about whether you can further improve this drafting. Thank you. Marked up copy, page 15. To add 2 new types of buildings. First, building that is occupied principally as a data center. Second, a portion of an industrial building that is occupied principally as a data center. So if they're newly constructed or if they've gone through retrofitting works, they will have to be regulated. Page 16. Amending Schedule 6, buildings that require energy audit. Section 2 is to add the relevant schedules, and then we have the list of buildings that have to go through energy audits. Mr. Chen Xiu-Hong. Now, in Schedule 1, the administration has added data centers, and the administration has promised to reconsider the definition of a data center. I'd like to know whether the definition will be included in Schedule 1 or in the interpretation section. It will be placed under the interpretation section. And so the CSEs you considered will be put under Section 2 interpretation. Right. Please go on. Page 17 of the marked up copy, amending Schedule 5. First energy audit for buildings without certificate of compliance registration. First, the audit date. It will count on the starting date of an energy audit. Part 2, arrangements for Type 1 or 2 building. Type 1 is commercial buildings, and second is commercial portion in a composite building. So now, if these buildings have done their energy audit before the commencement of the bill, then the next audit will be 10 years from then. For instance, if the first energy audit was done in 2023, the next audit will be in 2033, and still the third will be 5 years after 2033, i.e. 2038. No questions? Page 18. Page 18 are the newly added buildings. So the interval is every 5 years. Every 5 years. And page 19, amending Schedule 6, and that is the date for the first energy audit. The first is definition for certificate. It means the certificate of compliance registration under Section 2. Part 2, also on buildings already regulated. For those with certificates, so if it was done before the relevant date, so the interval is 10 years. If it is after, then 5 years. Page 20. Newly added buildings with the exception of data centers and industrial buildings. Part 3. If the certificate was issued before the relevant date, then the energy audit should be done 10 years after the date on which the building is first issued with a certificate, or 1 year after the relevant date. For instance, if it was completed in 2013, then the first will be done in 2023. So it has to be done 1 year after the relevant date. Please, Mr. Chen and Pan has a question. There were buildings which have been left vacant since completion and they are never used. I think this phenomenon is going to be more common. So what will be the kickoff date for calculating that 10 years or 5 years? Will the clock starts to tick after the issue of occupation permit or afterwards? So it's the occupation permit. So the building might have been vacant or not occupied for a long time. Even the building services are not fully installed, and some installations may only be added after occupation, such as the air conditioning system. The air conditioning system may only be installed upon occupation. So will you count from the date of occupation or the date when the occupation permit is issued? Now, there are provisions in the ordinance for owners to apply for exemption. For instance, a building might have been issued with an occupation permit, but it hasn't started operation. So the first energy audit can be done 10 years after first occupation or 5 years in the future. If after 10 years the building is still unoccupied, then the owner may apply for an exemption, quoting reasons of not having used any electricity or having used the building at all. So there is room for applying for exemption. All right, why don't we extend the meeting for 15 minutes until 10:45? Because we still have got a few more pages. Let's see if we can complete them. Page 20 and 21 of the marked up copy. So if it is for building with no certificate. Now for type 1 or 2 building, mainly commercial buildings, the future practice will be based on the date of occupation. Part 5, newly added buildings. We will follow the current practice. So 12 to 48 months after the relevant date, these buildings will have to comply with the requirements in phases. Part 6, portion of industrial building occupied principally as data center. We reviewed the situation. These buildings may not have a certificate for us to count the relevant date. So for this type of buildings, it will be 1 year after the relevant date. The first audit will be done 1 year after the relevant date. And this the date when its central building services start to consume energy. So you talked about the date when the center starts operation. The operation date may not start from the building or the center starts to operate. Even during the period of renovation, as soon as the power is switched on, well, when should be the start date? on the day when the center starts to consume power or when it really starts its operation. Now we have consulted the data center industry. For such buildings, they do not have a specific certificate. So we suggest operation date. Now in Hong Kong, you can't really tell when or prove when a data center starts to operate. So an objective factor is when the center starts to consume power. It will not be the renovation, the start of renovation, because the center back then is not yet a data center. So it will be the date, 1 year from the date on which the data center starts operation. And afterwards, there may be new data center set up after the enactment of the bill, and the first audit must be conducted 5 years after the date on which the data center starts operation.
All right, I'll give the floor to Mr. Leung to walk us through the amendments to subsidiary legislation. All right, Buildings Energy Efficiency Registered Energy Assessors Regulation, CAP 610 Subsidiary Legislation B. Let's refer to page 25 of the Blue Bill. Or is the page 25 of the marked up copy. We added building services or energy after environmental. Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Are we on page 25 of the English marked up copy? Yes, it's page 24 of the Chinese marked up copy and page 25 of the English marked up copy. Yes, just now we talked about the addition of building services or energy. Mr. Chen. Yes, I agree adding Hong Kong IQEP. In the determination of application, I can see the term corporate member if a member is one of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers. For professional member on the Hong Kong IQEP, you use the word professional member. I spent some time looking for it, but I still couldn't find it. There is the ordinance in relation to the Hong Kong IQEP, but I failed to find this term, professional member. Is there a definition for the word professional member? I was the chairperson of the committee. We talked about the definition of the term professional member. I'd like the administration to explain. Mr. Leung, thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question. We set up professional member of the Hong Kong IQEP, and that tallies with the term professional member. If one needs to obtain a title of professional member, a number of certain requirements will have to be met, including experience and educational qualifications. Mr. Chen just wants to make it clear whether the term is professional member. All right. Page 25C of the marked up copy. We have added professional member of the Hong Kong IQEP and the equivalent qualifications. Marked up copy, page 25. these are amendments as a result of the addition of the Hong Kong IQEP. We need to include the two professions. And on to page 27 of the English marked-up copy, no amendments. There are also amendments in relation to the addition of the Hong Kong IQEP. Page 29 of the English marked-up copy, there are technical amendments in relation to the addition of the Hong Kong IQEP. All the way to page 30 of the marked-up copy, likewise, there are technical amendments as well. In relation to the disciplinary board panel, that is page 32 of the marked-up copy, there's a series of amendments in relation to the technical aspect. And on page 32 of the marked-up copy, we change 5 disciplines to 7 disciplines in relation to the 2 extra disciplines added. Anything else to add? No. Page 34, likewise, 7 members appointed from 7 different categories of members. So we have already finished the clause-by-clause scrutiny. Legal advisor, in relation to the English text, we have reviewed the English text and there is no drafting issue. In relation to the CSA, we will wait until the administration provides us with the amendment before we scrutinize this proposed CSA. We have already completed clause-by-clause scrutiny. In relation to the concrete CSA, I believe the administration will provide further documents to explain the proposed amendments in greater detail. Just now, during the discussion, should we amend the Chinese text or the English text? Some members provided very good suggestions. Later on, when we receive papers from the administration, we will make a decision. And I believe members agree on the general direction. After we have received papers, the legal advisor will scrutinize the amendments. When they are acceptable in the opinion of the legal advisor, we may not have to hold another meeting after this one. Just now, members have put forward a lot of good suggestions and views in relation to the bill, in relation to saving energy to improve building energy efficiency. Public education and publicity matter. We do need to promote award schemes. Members have already provided a lot of good views. They may not be reflected in the bill this time round, but they have already been recorded in our meeting minutes. They serve very good reference purposes, and I believe the administration has already heard from members. Some members talked about policy discussion matters. As the chairman, I had to remind members of what we had already discussed during the last meeting. Otherwise, the live broadcast audience may find it strange. They may think that we haven't yet finished policy matter discussion, but actually we already finished that at last meeting. The secretary said that after the completion of the clause-by-clause scrutiny, if members would like to move any CSA, please move your amendment and submit it to the Secretariat before Friday, the 9th of May. In the course of the discussion today, I didn't hear from any member intending to move any CSA. If you do have any CSA, however, please submit it to the Secretariat and we will require the administration to respond to your proposed CSA in writing. The administration has taken us through the proposed CSA or the proposed amendment to the bill. The administration has already responded to members about all the questions. If you would like the administration to further respond, please liaise with the administration in writing. Depending on members and the legal advisor, we will decide whether we'll have to hold another meeting after this one. Otherwise, I'll make a report to the House Committee later on. After the administration confirmed the date of the resumption of the second reading debate on the bill, the Secretariat will inform members of the relevant legislative timetable, including the date on which I will make a report to the House Committee, as well as the deadline for moving amendments to the bill. Any other business? Not from me. Members, any other business? No. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, members.